Bonjour, chers collègues et amis. Je tiens d'abord à remercier les organisateurs du congrès de m'avoir invité. Je suis déçu de ne pouvoir être parmi vous et de ne pouvoir visiter la superbe région lyonnaise. Vous pouvez compter sur ma présence lors d'une prochaine édition sans pandémie mondiale, nous espérons. Passons aux choses sérieuses. Je vous présente ce qui est pour moi le compromis idéal pour optimiser les résultats cliniques de nos PTG, sans compromettre leur survie à long terme. As mentioned by the previous speakers, the ideal way to improve our patient satisfaction and knee function is to reorient our alignment goal towards a more personalized target. We should applaud Stephen Howell, who proposed to restore patient knee anatomies with the kinetic alignment technique. I started Kay in 2011 after listening to one of his presentations. I owe him a lot. Thanks, Stephen. Do I feel that K is a great option? Certainly. So why am I proposing a restricted kinematic alignment option? Looking at the anatomy of 4,800 patients who scheduled for total knee arthroplasty, we observe that the mean HK is very near neutral. However, the anatomy variation is very wide, with 19% of the cases with the HK above 5 degrees and 3% with the HK above 10 degrees. That is why we should question ourselves. Should all patients' anatomy be reproduced? From total hip replacement experience, we know that a severe hip dysplasia anatomy is not compatible with our implants and should be adapted. Is it the same for total knee arthroplasty? Should we reproduce blindly all anatomies? I believe we should not, because some pathoanatomies exist and should be modified to be compatible with our current implants. Then, what should be the thresholds? We know from historical study that in MATK, there was no correlation between HK variation between plus minus 3 degrees and implant survivorship. To be in a safe zone, this will be our first RK principle out of 5. Postoperative HK should be maintained within plus minus 3 degrees. If we look at patient anatomy more in details, we observe that the mean lateral distal femoral angle and the medial proximal tibial angle are approximately 3 degrees. There were also around 20% of the patient with these values above 5 degrees. As a second RK principle, I suggested to limit the LDFA and MPTA, which create joint obliquity, to a maximum of 5 degrees. This limit corresponds to the mean value plus 2 degrees. Following the first two RK principles, in 51% of the cases, you will perform true K without modifying patient anatomy. For another 30% of the case, you will need to adjust patient anatomy by less than 1 degree. Now, we need to discuss how to perform the anatomical modifications for the 20% of cases left. When performing the anatomical modifications, the goal will be to minimize their impact on ligaments laxity and joint kinematic. To plan our anatomical modifications, let's go back to patient anatomy and determine our third principle. Most anatomical studies agree that collateral ligament tension is subjected to individual variability, but in general, female are more lax, MCL is tighter than LCL, and both collaterals are tighter in extension than in flexion. The key point is that in a native knee, collateral ligaments are not isometric. Restoring normal ligament laxities will favor joint kinematic and correlate in clinical study with higher patient satisfaction and better clinical scores at short-term follow-up. Our third RK principle is to restore native knee collateral balance and laxities versus aiming for a ligament isometry. We should avoid all gap balancing related technique to modify bone resection. The next question to answer is, when anatomy adjustments are required, where should it be performed? On the tibial side, the femur side, or both bones? We know that the femoral anatomy is the key of the knee joint kinematics. Maintaining its flexion axis orientation and joint surfaces anatomy is a priority. This is our fourth principle. When performing anatomical modification to reach our RK thresholds, we should favor femoral anatomy preservation. To simplify the decision-making, here is the RK alignment algorithm to follow for each patient. It is a simple algorithm. We will use it together in the following slide in case examples. This algorithm helps you to follow our 5 RK principles and favor adjustments on the most contributing bone to the deformity while aiming for femoral anatomy preservation. Let's see some cases example. Here is a 57-year-old man with IHK of 3 degree, with a LDFA of 2 degree valgus and an MPTA of 3 degree varus. Both LDFA and MPTA are within RK boundaries of a maximum of 5 degree. The arithmetic sum of LDFA and MPTA equals 1 degree varus, which is within the RK boundary of plus minus 3 degrees. We can proceed with bone cuts without any adjustment. Thus, we perform a true kinematic alignment in this case, which corresponds to about 50% of the patient that we see in practice. Here is another case with severe valgus of 17 degrees. The femur is at 9 degree valgus and the tibia 3 degree varus. We need to bring down the femur to a max of 5 degrees. With a femur at 5 degrees valgus and a tibia at 2 degree varus, will produce a HK of 3 degree valgus. Here is the post-op radiograph of this patient where a correction of 3 to 4 degrees was required. So a minimal ligamentous release was needed, but to a lesser extent than with mechanical alignment. To perform restricted kinematic alignment, you need a clear understanding of each patient anatomy. So it is best performed with intraoperative direct feedback with computer navigation or robotic or a pre-op planning as with personalized instruments. I used both techniques over the last 10 years with success. I proposed in 2011 the restricted K protocol and published different papers reporting the clinical outcome using both navigation and personalized instruments. I believe that restoring patient anatomy and joint kinematics are the key to improve their clinical outcome. Restricted kinematic alignment is the ideal compromise to achieve these goals while avoiding reproducing pathological anatomies and keeping the lower limb alignment in a safe range compatible with implant long-term survivorship. After more than 40 years of mechanical alignment, I am surprised that it lasted so long. I would invite you all to join the Personalized Arthroplasty Society and be part of this important paradigm change. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup et bonne fin de congrès.